All right, we're going to learn about representing proportional relationships. A couple of definitions that you need to know. Yes, you do need to write them down. Get out that piece of paper, take it on your OneNote, wherever you'd like. Our first one is about proportional relationships. Remember what a proportion is? It's a fraction. Basically what a proportional relationship is, it's a relationship between two quantities which the ratio of one quantity to the other quantity is constant. That's the key there. Our next definition, a proportional relationship can be described by an equation of the form y equals kx, where k is a number called the constant of proportionality. Now remember what constant means. Constant means it's going to be a number. So it's going to be always going to be a number. So k is a number. It's the constant of proportionality. Now it's easier to see k as a proportional relationship if we write it as a fraction. So remember, proportion, like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, is a fraction. So let's go ahead and solve for k and make it a fraction. You solve for k by dividing by x on both sides. So what does that mean? So if I have y equals kx, I'm trying to solve for k. Remember, k is just a number. Just a number. So if I divide by x on both sides, I end up with my equation here. K equals yx. I'll write it nicely over here so you can see. K equals y over x. So y over x is a proportion. It is a ratio. We are going to be looking for this ratio during this lesson. So what does all of that mean? Well, those two little definitions, what does all that mean? Well, let's do an example. So example 1, Drake, the lovely rapper, earns $300 every time Hotline Bling plays on the local radio station. Show the relationship between the amount he earns and the number of times the annoying, I'm throwing that in there because it's quite annoying, song plays is a proportional relationship, and then write the equation. So we have two things we have to do here. We have to show that it's a proportional relationship, and then we have to write an equation for that relationship. So there's 3 steps to this process. So step 1, let's make a table. Make a table of the number of times that it's played and the amount that he earns. So if I start making my table, let's just say it plays 1 time. We would only be so lucky for it to play 1 time. It plays like 15, I think. He would make $300. So if it plays 2 times, how much does he make? He makes $600. Okay, what if it plays 4 times? How much does he make? 4 times 300 is $1,200. What if it plays 6 times, which is the likely scenario, because that seems like how many times I hear it on the radio. 6 times 300 is 1,800. Okay? So step 1, make a table. Step 2, use the table to write a ratio of the amount earned and the number of times a song plays. So remember the constant of proportionality, that second little term that we did. This is how we have to write this. So we're trying to find k, so we have to do y over x. Remember, this is y, this is x. It says the amount earned and the number of times the song plays. You can also look at the order here. Amount earned goes on top. The number of times the song plays goes on bottom. So it's y over x. So if we do that, we write 300 over 1, because that's going to be your y over your x. Okay, that's one proportion. Another one would be this one, which is 600 over 2. The next one would be 1,200 over 4. The next one would be 1,800 over 6. But it says in simplest form. These aren't in simplest form. The first one is, so we're good to go on that one. So I'm going to do a little check mark here. This one's in simplest form. 300 over 1 is in simplest form, but the 600 over 2 is not. Since it isn't, we are going to make it so. So what can I divide on the top and bottom? Well, I can divide by 2. If I divide by 2, this becomes 300 over 1. Okay? The next one is not in simplest form either. 1200 over 4 is not in simplest. So if I divide that by 4 on the top and bottom, what do you think I get? 300 over 1. Imagine that. Let's do the last one. If I make this in simplest form, divide by 6 on the top and bottom, I get 300 over 1. So notice they're all the same. That's where the word constant of proportionality comes from. It's constant. Stays the same. Same no matter what. So since all the ratios are the same, the relationship is proportional. That was the first thing we had to show. Show that it's proportional. Okay? So all of these are the same, so it's proportional. If they weren't the same, then it's not proportional. And our last handy-dandy step, you have to write your equation. Okay, remember at the beginning we said our equation is y equals kx. So first step, we have to tell what variable represents what. X represents the number of times the song is played. Y represents the amount he makes each time. The second thing we have to do, remember that k is the ratio you found in step 2. All right, what did we find in step 2? Well, we found that it was 300, or you could say 300 over 1. A simpler form of that is just 300. So now we just write our equation. Our equation is y equals 300x. Now I want you to pause the video, and on your OneNote classroom notebook or on your own paper, I want you to answer the following questions. We're going to try another example. Example 2. The graph shows the relationship between the number of days a car is rented and the total cost for the rental. Write the equation for this relationship. So they're not asking you if this one is proportional. They're going straight for the gusto and saying, write an equation for the relationship. You're still going to follow the same steps you did before. You just don't have to prove it's proportional this time. So step 1, make a table. Usually I make them with the points that are on there. It makes it nice and tidy. All right, so this is all units of 1. 3 days. How much does it cost? $100. For 6 days, how much does it cost? $200. For 9 days, how much does it cost? $300. For 12 days, this one right here is 12, it costs $400. And the last point is 18 days. There's 18 there. It costs $600. So 600. Step 2. Use the table to write the ratio of the days rented and the total cost in simplest form. There that is again, simplest form. You should think my constant of proportionality, the y over x. So remember, days is our x, cost is our y. So I have 100 over 3. Is that in simplest form? Yes, it is. You could write it as a mixed number if you wanted to. Get a little fancy. If you want to write it as a mixed number, you could, which would be 33 1/3. The next one, 200 over 6. That is not in simplest form. So let's put it in simplest. What can I divide the top and bottom by? If I divide by 2 on the top and bottom, I get 3, and I get 100. 300 over 9. If I write that in simplest form, what can I divide the top and bottom by? This one I can divide by 3. I get 100 over 3. Noticing the pattern? All right, you have to keep going though to make sure they all match, because if they don't all match, then it's not proportional. So you have 400 over 12. Our constant of proportionality is divide by 4 on the top and bottom, and you get 100 over 3. And then the last one, 600 over 18. If you divide by 6 on the top and bottom to get it in the simplest form, you get 100 over 3. Ta-da! So the constant of proportionality is 100 over 3, or, if you like mixed numbers, 33 and a third. Step 3, write that equation. That was the whole point of this one, was to write the equation. But in order to write it, you have to find that constant of proportionality in step 2. Let's write our equation. Remember our steps. Step 1, tell which variable represents. So the x represents the days. Y represents the total cost, just like we said in our table. The second thing we have to remember is that k is the ratio you found in step 2. Well, what was that? 100 over 3. Or you could say 33 and a third if you want to. So write the equation. So we know what k is. Y stays as is. K is 33 and a third, or 100 over 3, doesn't matter, x. Now you try it by yourself. This is also on your OneNote, or you can do it on your own paper. And I want you to pause the video and try it on your own. Let us know if you have any questions.